What's up guys, it's your girl Tyler, aka Five-Headed Lady, and I am back with another video, and this time I'm talking about traveling to India. Now if you haven't watched my India videos on TikTok, which explains how the fuck I ended up in India, because I wasn't planning to be in India, I was actually living in Thailand at the time. I'd packed up all my stuff, decided to move to Thailand, and then somehow ended up in fucking India. In this video, I'm going to tell you a few things that you should know before you travel to India. So let's go. Now before I get into this video, I just want to say a quick disclaimer that this is from my own personal experience. I loved India. India has a it's just not for the faint-hearted, India. So I would highly recommend doing your research before you go and also taking advice of other people, because India will slap you in the motherfucking face when you go there. So here's some things that you should know before you go. Number one, if you are a female, and to be fair, this just actually applies to anybody, don't travel to India alone. I know that people have done it, I know that females have done it, and I also know that there are a lot of videos on here saying that it's fine. There's also a lot of videos saying that it's not okay. I have traveled a lot. I've been to about 20 countries, about to be 21. Now that the pandemic's over, I can finally travel again. I'm so excited. And I actually watched a lot of videos on India before I went. This was pre-pandemic, by the way, so all this advice is pre-pandemic. I don't know what it's like now. I can't imagine it will be that much different. It could even be a little bit worse. But with that being said, do not travel by yourself if you can avoid it, because I decided to go by myself, and luckily someone I know was there. If you watch my TikTok videos, you will see the whole story. It was my ex, and we ended up being in the same place at the same time and ended up spending the whole of the India trip together, which was great in hindsight, because I don't believe I could have done it by myself. And that's big coming from me. I mean, I could have, but there's, no, just don't do it, okay? So I actually watched a lot of videos before I went, because it was like a free ball sort of thing. Like I just decided that I should go to India. Like I was listening to my gut, and yeah, anyways, that's a whole other thing. I'll get into that story one day. But yeah, I decided to go by myself and then ended up meeting my ex there. He's of Fiji Indian descent, so that also helped, because not only was he more on the dark side in terms of his skin color, but he also understood the language as well. So that was one. And the reason I say that is because India is highly dominated by men. There are literally males fucking everywhere. Like I remember I went to, I don't know where we were, but it was like a bus stop, and it was like a bus stop sort of center thing, and there were just men everywhere. I literally saw no females. I was literally the only female. So imagine being the only female in a foreign country surrounded by men who don't speak your language, or some of them don't speak your language. It's daunting. And like when I got off the plane in Delhi, by the way, I don't recommend going to Delhi, but that's just me. When I got off the plane in Delhi, everybody was staring at me, and like I understand, because I look different. I'm more fair skinned. They're probably trying to work out where the fuck I'm from, and I'm also female. But the way that these people would stare at you, it was like they were looking into your soul. Like I had never been so uncomfortable in a space or in a country ever before in my life. And I've been through some shit, and I've traveled quite a bit by myself as well, and it was just the most uncomfortable thing ever. I cannot tell you. Now don't get me wrong, this isn't me like bagging the Indian people or India itself. It's just very different, and you have to be very conscious when you go to that country. So that's number one. If you can avoid it, please don't go to India by yourself. In saying that, I also heard stories of people that were in relationships, and they were literally with their partner, like holding their hands and everything, and there were guys still trying to like do things. So yeah, just be very, very conscious. So I would say, like, if you are going to travel, just go with somebody else. Like at least you have two of you there, you know, if something was to happen. Obviously I hope it doesn't. I luckily didn't have anything happen to me. I just had people say things and he wouldn't repeat them to me because he didn't feel comfortable to do so. But other than that, like, I was pretty fine. I did sort of, I guess you could say get scammed, but not really get scammed. Like, obviously they try and get money, like it's a different like economy over there. But another thing that I got told, which I guess could be number 2, is to take the police taxis. So when I got off the plane, right outside, you'll see, I can't remember what it was. I think it was a sign or something, or they're like black or something like that. And I got told to just go take the police taxi because they're a lot safer. They are, but at the same time, one guy obviously saw that I was a foreigner and instantly came up to me and he was like, police taxi, was like taking me over there. And I was like, oh, okay. So I thought he was like showing me the way there, but he was actually doing it so that he could get money from me. And I was just like freaking out because it was just like a culture shock. It's like probably the first country that I've had a massive culture shock in. And I was just like, ah. So then I jumped in the taxi and he was like obviously asking for money. And I was like, I don't even give a shit. I just gave it. And then the police taxi, he didn't speak English. So then I had to call my friend on the phone. That's another thing. Make sure that you have a working phone. So get a SIM card. Make sure that you've worked that all out before you get there. And he was trying to tell him the directions, but because of his accent and also I think the way that they say things is also different, you know how that happens with like different cultures and stuff. He also couldn't understand where the fuck he was telling him to go, but he managed to get me there. Freakily enough though, we literally went through Delhi and went to the spot where we were staying, and my friend had come out as I drove past because the guy seemed like he was lost, and I think he was lost. And so he pulled up to the side of the road and he was just like sitting there like for a bit looking at me, and I was like, I am not getting out. And I think he was telling me to get out, and I was like, no, you can keep driving. And lucky enough he did, because then my friend came out and I was like, there he is, and like found him, and it was great. But I later found out that the area that we stayed in was actually a really bad area. So imagine if I got left there in the middle of fucking nowhere, cannot speak Hindi, and I'm just like, I would lose my shit. So be prepared. Have your phone working, have Google, like have the accommodation sorted. Like even if the accommodation you're staying at has like a transfer, I would recommend doing that, because that was not it. So I guess we're up to number like 3 or 4, I don't know, take with it what you will. But the next thing that I am going to share with you is if you're booking transportation, so like a bus, make sure that your phone's working. One, because for some reason ours weren't. I think it was actually because I didn't get a SIM card, but I could use my phone overseas, but it wouldn't receive things. I don't know. Something happened. We couldn't use our phones anyway. But the bus sends you information through text. And so we couldn't get the text messages. And these buses, they will say 6 a.m., but they'll not arrive till like 10 a.m. They are always fucking late. So make sure that you can get those notifications, because we knew, well, he knew and he told me, aka my friend, he knew that it would happen. So we ended up getting there early anyway, just in case. So we got there at like maybe like 4 or 5 a.m. I don't know. And we literally were there for hours waiting for this bus. And it didn't come till like, I think it was like 9 or 10 a.m. So we were sitting there like for hours waiting for this motherfucking bus. And then the bus doesn't stop, like doesn't fully stop. So it's like moving and you have to literally jump on it. There's like literally people pushing in, like there's a whole, it's like clumped in the bus door trying to get on the bus. So that's another thing, as well as if you buy a certain ticket, for example, for a bed, don't think that bed's going to be free for you when you jump on the bus. We didn't get one. We just got seats because we were like, oh, it's fine. Like we don't need to sleep on the bus. That bed, all those beds were covered in people. And I'm like 90% sure that none of them paid for that area. So yeah, that goes out of the window. Don't even bother with that. In my experience, it just would not have worked. Oh yeah, number 5, do not. And this is why we were so tired when we were waiting for the bus, because we didn't sit down. There were no seats anywhere. And the reason why is because you have to be prepared that no matter where you go, someone needs to go. You get what I'm saying? And so if there's no bathrooms around, they do not give a fuck. They will literally whip it out or pop a squat in the middle of the street. And I saw that happen more times than one, and thank God I didn't see anything, because, but it happens literally in public, on the street, right in front of you. So yeah, don't do that. So yeah, we didn't sit down like really at all ever on the street, or any like fences that, you know, could like be used in that capacity. The places that we went was Delhi. We only stayed there for a day though, and then we left because we just did not like Delhi. I didn't like Delhi. I didn't like the vibe. It just was a huge no for me. Delhi, we went to Pushkar and Jaipur. Yeah. So the Pink City, which I'd always wanted to go to, so that was cool. And yeah, it's just a different vibe in that country. The next thing that I need you guys to know is that there's no such thing as lines, and like in some capacity courtesy. And I'm gonna say there's no Western courtesy. We're gonna say it that way, because I'm not obviously bashing them at all. That's how their culture is. And this is what you need to be aware of when you travel to countries like this, or just countries in general. There are different customs, there's different ways of doing things, the economy is different, people are different, like the mindset, thought processes, and all that kind of stuff, they're all different. So you have to be aware of that, especially for a country like India, because it's still hierarchical? It's still got a hierarchy in that country. So like for me, because I'm a female, I'd never felt so uncomfortable and so below other human beings before in my life. That's genuinely how I felt. And again, I'm not bashing them or anything like that, but that's just the way it was. Like, we ended up getting a driver, like a tuk-tuk driver, sorry, and they took us around the whole time that we were in Jaipur, which was awesome. But they very rarely spoke to me. They only communicated with him, and that was partly because he could also speak Hindi, but they also spoke English like very, very well. And yeah, they very rarely spoke to me, but I also was just very quiet because I just didn't really want to step on anyone's toes or anything like that. So I kind of just let him deal with that anyway. And they were lovely, but very rarely, even when we went to get food and stuff, very rarely was I spoken to at all. It's a very male dominated country. I think I watched something and it said that there's more males there than females, which you can fucking tell. So what was I going to say? Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, so like standing in line and stuff, and if you're trying to be like courteous, yeah, don't. Just throw that out the window. That doesn't exist. And I'm not somebody like that. Like, I can't be pushy and like, you know, jump in and stuff like that, but they do that. So yeah, just be mindful of that. They're not being rude. It's just how they are, you know, it's how their society is constructed, I guess you could say. Another thing I would recommend is learning the language. Not like learning the language like fully and fluently, but learning some words that are common that you're going to use. So for example, hello, how are you? No. Now I can't remember the words that I learnt, but I remember using them, and that kind of put this like precedent that I was aware of like what they were saying. Because I remember I answered a guy, I think he was asking if I wanted water or something, and I answered him back, and then he said to my friend, oh, it's good that she knows how to speak Hindi. And then I was like, oh, don't even know what you're saying. I was like, yep, like just like went with it sort of thing. So make sure that you learn some of the language. That's hugely beneficial. And I just think it's common courtesy as well. Like no matter what country you go to, try and learn something, just so you can communicate, and it like kind of puts that precedent that you've like tried, you know, to understand them or like immerse yourself in their culture. I think Indian culture is beautiful. I love that, how traditional they are, and like in some sense, and how they just keep their traditions alive as well, like culturally. So the 9th thing to know about India is, oh, this is super important. Make sure that you have cash when you go, because none of the freaking ATMs work there. And I thought, oh, I'll be in an airport and it'll be fine. I'll get some cash out, because I was low on cash, but I was like, I'll be fine. And I was like, okay, ATM, I'll just get it out at the airport. Surely it will work at the airport. No, they don't work at the airport. They don't fucking work anywhere. Make sure that you have cash, but also make sure that you're safe, you know, keeping it safe and stuff as well, because you'll get raided without even knowing it. What's another thing to know about India? This is number 11, and this is more of this is a little bit more naughty. But I always feel like if you're in a country and there's like things that you should try, like the things that countries are, I guess, known for, I feel like you should try it, you know, just live a little, but obviously be cautious, like don't do anything stupid. But in India, I think weed is like highly a thing. I don't know. Anyways, they have these things called lassis. And if you haven't heard of a lassi, it's basically a milkshake. And generally they have lassis like here, but they obviously just don't have stuff in it. It's just like a milkshake. But they have lassis in India and they obviously have stuff in it. You know? If you know, you know. If you know what I'm talking about, you know. I tried one at a hotel. It was absolutely fucking amazing. Now look, I don't do that stuff on a regular basis. I don't even do it like just here, like because, you know what I mean? Like I just don't do it. It's not my thing. But I was like, I'm in India, why not? Like, may as well give it a try, you know? I have never had something like that, I will fucking tell you. Like, it was, like, I've obviously smoked weed before. As you do when you're a teenager, you try some things. But I've never had it like that. Like, when we first had it, I was like, oh, whatever. Like, it's, you know, can't even feel it. Just like weed, I giggle and that's like basically it. And, then my mate was like, we should go back to the tent because we were staying in like a hotel and it had like tents. It was pretty cool, but anyways, this whole thing. And I was like, yeah, cool. He's like, before it hits. And I was like, I don't feel anything. Literally, as we're walking back, it starts to hit. And I'm just like, whoa, this is different. And then we get back to the tent and it's like full blowing. Like, the feeling, I can't even describe it. It's insane. It's crazy. It's like in the best way though. It's like weed but on steroids. Like you're just chill as fuck. So I would highly recommend trying that just once. But I will say this, we actually had another one that we got from a street vendor and we ended up getting gastro. You live and you learn, you know? So, and the funny thing is that we were actually going to go to Vipassana, which is a meditation retreat. And I ended up bailing because I was like, I don't think I'm ready for something like that, which is why I went to India. And I'll get to that. If you want to see more of it, go to TikTok, but I will do a story on how I ended up in India eventually. But my mate ended up going and he was just sick for so long, like violently throwing up and stuff. I literally just got back to Thailand because I'd moved to Thailand. And I was like, I just need a hotel at 4 a.m. And I just stayed there and I was like, the same, just throwing up like every 5 minutes. It was absolutely the worst. And that one actually tasted really gross. Like the first one we had, it tasted like, what's it, like Ferrero Rocher. It was so good. Oh, I would have it again. I'm not even gonna lie. But yeah, I don't condone that stuff, like obviously, but when you're in India, do as the Indians do. But yeah, that's pretty much my what should you know before you travel to India. There's probably going to be way more and I'll probably do a part 2. But if you do have any questions, like definitely let me know. India is a beautiful place. It has its own beauty to it and you just have to be very open-minded when you go there. It's a very different country, very different culture. And I love like learning about other cultures and stuff like that. So I understand that, but I think people go there and don't really take that in, you know. They think that it's going to be like Australia or America or something like that, and it's just not. It's a very different country. It's not for the faint-hearted, but I would recommend going because it also shows you how other people live, and I think that puts it into perspective for you as well. And I just think, yeah, it's a great country to snap you the fuck out of whatever funk that you're in, let me tell you. So yeah, if you are thinking about going to India, let me know in the comments. If you have any questions about traveling there or my story on how the fuck I got there, let me know. And make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe to my channel.